Of course, it's still Rise and Shine coming to you live on Spectrum Television, and you know we're beaming live from here, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Phone numbers will be on the screen just in case you want to phone in and ask Honorable Clement Jimbo one or two questions alongside with us this morning. Good morning, Honorable Clement. Welcome to Rise and Shine. How are you this morning, and how is Abuja?
Good morning to Akwa Ibom. Good morning, Nigerians. And Abuja is very good.
Good morning.
Very good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I like to start off on a footing that, the generality of the representation of the people comes on the shoulder, your shoulder, and you're being referred to as the youth slot as far as back at Temeko Federal constituency is concerned. How does it feel to be saddled with that mandate of representing what Nigerian youths, by extension, Akwa Ibom youths, are capable of doing when given the opportunity?
Well, thank you so very much. Youth slot, the youth slot is an idea, is an inclusion of youth in the development of Nigeria, in the development of Akwa Ibom State, and in the development of Abak Ika-Etmeko Federal constituency. Over the years, we've seen where our revered elders who sit, discuss how to develop Nigeria, to develop a state, and the people that actually carry out the implementation of their discussion are the youths. So when I came out in 2019 to first vie for the position of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it was indeed this idea that motivated me the most, because the youths of Nigeria and the youths of Akwa Ibom State form the majority of the population of Nigeria and indeed Akwa Ibom State. So if we have this number, let us translate this number to substance, where in the table of political discussion, where Nigeria is discussed, where Akwa Ibom State is discussed, youth is equally represented at that table. So that is what actually brought to bear the youth slot mantra. And I'm very happy that it has come to stay, that it was not just a talking point on social media, it was not just a talking point in some section of the media, it has enveloped not just Abak Ika-Etmeko Federal constituency, not just Akwa Ibom State, but indeed it is a talking point in Nigeria and beyond Nigeria.
All right,
so
you're representing...
Coming to your... in the youth slot mantra for people to keep looking up to the youth as a vital ingredient in the development of Nigeria. Since I was inaugurated on the 13th of June 2023, it was very uncommon that a first-timer who hasn't been a local government chairman before, who hasn't held any political position before, was able on the second day of plenary to move a motion. And it was very, very rare. Even the speaker was surprised. That was why even when I was not completely informed on the modus operandi of the House, that wearing a native attire should complement it with a cap, when I didn't do that, and a colleague of mine rose a point of order to stand me down.
Seems to be having some network interference there with Honorable Clement Jimbo. We do hope the network allow us, to pick his mind on the effective representation this morning. But from what he stated on his very first few days in the National Assembly, was able to move a motion, even though he is yet to complete that. And I'd like to know what
the motion was actually,
and the essence of that motion. But of course, the phone numbers are on your screen, and we're talking about youth slot effective representation. in the wake of the report that over 40-something National Assembly members and ex-governors who are now National Assembly members have not been able to effectively represent. Good to have you back, Honorable. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Like I said, I was able to move a motion in your intro. Overhead to say what is the...
Yes, what's the motion?
Of the motion. The motion had to do with infrastructure. If you recall, there is a bridge in my locality called Abakitenge. It's a collapsed bridge that was constructed in 2001 by the NDDC, Interventionist Agency of Government. And because of the collapse of that bridge, it affected adversely the lives of the communities around that locality. So I brought that to the fore, and federal government has seen the need to include that very bridge in the current 2024 budget for intervention. So that is number one. Then number two, I only moved the second motion. The second motion that has to do with the decayed infrastructure in Akwa Ibom State. The decayed infrastructure in my constituents. So many buildings that were done by NDDC hospitals, schools that weren't completed, it was equally brought to the fore. And that is receiving an urgent attention by the federal government. And several other motions, I'm not talking about petitions, that they have raised on the floor. For example, in 1971, when when the military came to Abak local government area and decided to establish Ibawa barracks without compensating the owners of the land adequately for their land. That was brought to my fore, and I deemed it necessary to raise a point of petition on the floor. And as we speak, that matter was referred to the petition committee of the House, and it is receiving the adequate attention. That is away from motions. Then let's talk about bills. How many bills has Clement Jimbo have been able that have scaled through first reading? The first bill that I moved, it was actually on the 18th of October 2023, still within the same year I was inaugurated. The bill is on technology transfer. The bill number is HB 591 for anybody that cares to investigate, to check it out. HB 591. It is the first bill I ever sponsored in the House. Yeah. What is the import of this bill? Just like the youth slot leverage on the population of the youth stock in Nigeria and in Akwa Ibom State to ventilate its political aspiration, capitalizing on the numbers we have to translate it to substance. I look at Nigeria. I look at the data that are coming in from Bureau of Statistics. For example, Nigeria currently is using over 200 million handsets. 200 million handsets. Nigeria is currently using over 12 million cars and uncountable batteries that we use in our remote control keys, that we use on our telephones, that we use on our microphones, that we use on our cameras, that we use on our solar devices. This is a huge number. Then I look at the natural resources that produces these components, and I said it is lithium. I asked myself, do we have this lithium in abundance? The answer is yes. And I asked myself a question, do we have the quality of lithium that can be used in the production of battery? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. In fact, the quality of lithium that we have in Nigeria is the best in the world. Okay, I said, since we do not have the technology to produce battery that we can use on our phones, let us leverage on the huge number, the population that we have, over 200 million, and use that as a negotiation bulk, as a negotiation yardstick for us to gain the technology from the developed world into Nigeria so that we can develop a natural resource to semi-finished or even finished goods that can attract the gross domestic product to Nigeria. We can leverage that to generate employment, and we can leverage that to do a whole lot of things, attract efforts to Nigeria. That's the import of demotion. I said, okay, to bring it to the barest minimum, Nigeria is over 200 million. Let us put a law, because that law does not exist currently in Nigeria, that if, for example, a country that wants to develop a particular brand of handset and shipped it to Nigeria, let's say 20 million handset, let's say 50 million handset, we are going to tell them, the law will tell them, yes, it's a welcome idea. But before you develop this thing, understand that it will not enter into Nigerian market until you give us the technology to develop a component of your product. In this case, battery. So the country will leverage with us, with our natural resources, with our intellectual capacities, and give us the technology to develop that component. So they will go ahead and produce 20 million handsets without battery. We will produce a component of battery, 20 million copies, and pay it together. So they sell their handset for $50, for example. We sell the battery for $10, $15. We pay it. What will that translate to Nigeria? It will create employment for our youth. It will develop a natural resource to a finished good, to semi-finished good. It will attract foreign direct investment. It will increase our GDP. So that is the first import of the bill that I sponsor. The second bill that I sponsored has to do with the establishment bill. If you go to Jos, Plateau State, there is School of Medical Sciences. That is there. So when I went to the school, I saw it, I interfaced with the professor, which is typically an Akwa Ibom son. I told him, how can we replicate something like this in Akwa Ibom State? He gave me the lead down. We put pen to paper. He gave me the blueprint. I moved it. That motion was first moved in the floor. That was late last year. The second motion was to establish a college of medical science laboratories in Akwa Ibom State, specifically in our back local government area. So those are the two bills that have scaled through first reading. They have been now gazetted for second reading, eventually goes through third reading, and I pray that the president will sign it into law, and those Nigerians and indeed Akwa Ibom people will begin to reap the benefits of this legislative intervention.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Clement, just before I would let Francis ask his question, I was going to ask you, since this is our youth slot for the people of Abak, what should the youth be expecting from you as a representative of the youth in Abak constituency?
Thank you very much. Like I said, from the response to your question, and so far what we've been able to do, it is a very clear testament that the youth, not just the youth of our back local government area, neither the youth of Ikmekwe local government area, but the entire youth of Akwa Ibom State and indeed Nigeria, have a whole lot to offer in the building process of Nigeria. Do not forget that there is a very direct relationship. There is a very direct collaboration between the energy of a youth and the leaders, that the intellectual capacities that the leader must have. I want to say that again. There is a direct relationship. The energy of a youth is directly proportional to the intellectual capacity that a leader must have in the building blocks of a country. And this is found in the youth of Nigeria. For example, ever since we assumed office, there is virtually no legislative engagement that we have not participated to. Not just me, almost all of us from Akwa Ibom State. We have been so exemplary that the leadership of the National Assembly have come to terms with the caucus of Akwa Ibom State that indeed this is one caucus that is very vibrant in terms of motions. This is very vibrant in terms of deliberations in the House. They are very vibrant in terms of bills and other oversight functions. We are not lacking in any. And this is because The 10th House of Representatives and indeed Akwa Ibom State Caucus is playing with our elders, which the youth is tapping with the wisdom of the elders and the energy of the youth to bring this to bear.
Honorable, let's come down to the national politics. Let's come down to state politics. One of the reasons why you and the rest of the representatives, 10 of you at the House of Rep, 3 at the Senate, are sent from Akwa Ibom State is to represent the interests of the people and bring down federal presence to the state. Now, we know that, for the longest time, we've not had what we call the Akwa Ibom agenda, where the priority is to collapse structure or collapse every other interest and ensure whatever comes in comes to Akwa Ibom. In all of the analysis that you've said, your primary focus, yes, is to your constituent. But let's look at the bigger picture. What are you doing to also ensure that you're not just bringing projects to your constituency, but also the generality of Akwa Ibom State? And I'm asking that question because the School of Medical Sciences we talked about, in Akwa Ibom currently, we are moving for the School of Health Tech to be made a university, the only one we have so far. So we can have, students living there, coming out with, the proper certificate. So what are you also doing in that regard?
Thank you very much. That is why we are 10 in the House, 10 federal representatives and 3 senators. And one of the senators is not just a senator, he's the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And for your information also, when we make a law or when we make laws, the laws are not only implementable or being beneficial to only the constituents of the representative that make the law. It is for the entire country. And when I say I have moved a bill to establish Federal College of Health Sciences in a back local government area, of course that is Akwa Ibom State, it is not only the people of a back local government area that will be employed or that will be beneficiary there. It is indeed the entire Akwa Ibom State and by extension Nigeria, because it is a federal college.
Okay, Honorable, just because our time is fast spent and we need to wrap up, and probably because we'll have to still bring you on for a lot more conversation because there are a lot of things that we need to really look at. But just before we let you go, do you think the engagement that you and other of your colleagues who are, in quote, youths, are putting forth in the 10th Assembly is capable of giving the not too young to run, legislation in the country a facelift? Because we're looking at having a president who is an under 40. We're looking at having a president who is 30. We're looking at having leaders across corridors of power who are still classified as youths in their age, not youths by mindset. Do you think what your front, let's use Akwa Ibom as a case study, the caucus of the youth slots in Akwa Ibom State are doing on the national scene is capable of changing the minds that Nigerian youths are not just good as being PAs and aides to the older generation, but are capable of contributing to changing the narrative in the country?
Yes, for the mere fact that Clement Jimbo is sitting down having this conversation with you as an elected member representing Abak-Ika-Itimekpo and is the progenitor of the youth slot mantra clearly underscores the importance of youth togetherness towards driving a particular cause. Yes, it is possible. I have experimented it in Akwa Ibom State, and I trust other states will equally live up to the biddings and roll their sleeves and get to the political fray and work for the generality of the youth bunch in Nigeria. Yes, the 10th National Assembly is an embodiment of the youth. If you observe, your last guest talked about the establishment of state policing. The very person that actually moved that motion for the creation of state policing is a youth, a lawmaker. Of course, we are all queuing behind him to see to it that the motion, the bill does not just stop at the first reading stage. It moves to the second reading, to the third reading. But we pray that is where the other youths in all the 36 states of the Federation will have to come in, that the different state houses of assembly led by the speaker will equally see the need to pass this very piece of legislation into law for us to have a two-thirds majority and for the president to ascend for us to have not just the state policing, local government financial autonomy, and of course the judicial autonomy. These are well and far-reaching legislation that would mean well for the generality of Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Jimbo. We do hope we'll still have to bring you on, subsequently to have a lot more conversation. But we're really out of time, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm most honored.